Welcome back to Business Uncut. My name's Reuben, and today I want to actually talk about the Trump tariffs. Now, if you're an Australian business owner and think that Trump's tariffs aren't going to affect you, I think you really need to think again. If you've been living under a rock or haven't been watching the news, what we're seeing at the moment is a trade war that is starting to escalate and is going to affect a lot of business owners. Now, whether you're a small business or whether you're a larger business, I really think that you need to take this into consideration on how this may impact you in the short, medium, and long term. It's very, very important to understand that this global trade, it's going to happen irrespective of whether you think your product or service is I guess not going to be impacted by it at all. Now, what's going to happen essentially is that these new policies, these new tariffs will inflate either directly or indirectly your cost. You have the ability to squeeze your margins and expose a lot of weak points in your operations. So what I'm recommending is you adapt, you pivot, or you're going to get left behind. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. So what's happening? Around April this year, 2025, Trump and the US, what they did is impose a 10% baseline tariff on most imports. So products that are coming outside of the US into the US. And this includes Australian goods. So if you're an e-commerce owner or you're currently exporting out to the US, you're going to get affected by this, right? Now, what's also happening is that China, one of the largest producers in the world, currently I believe they take up about 15% of GDP or worldwide GDP, they got hit with a much, much larger tariff. So essentially any of the products that are being sent from China to the US, there is a very large tariff that's going to hit them. And essentially what happens is it has created a trade war between China and the US. Now, what does that mean? It means that essentially the US are going against an arrangement, like a world trade arrangement that they originally set up in the first place. And so this is going to have a lot of impact on the world in terms of businesses. But specifically today, we're going to talk about Australian exporters and how I guess we're going to feel that and how it's going to be felt not only directly but indirectly. So why does this matter to you? Now let's talk about this. Now we've got 90 days at the minute to try and change your business. But if you don't, what's going to happen is there are going to be indirect and direct consequences to these tariffs, right? And so if you are, again, let's use an e-commerce business because it's quite simple with it. If you are now sending product to the US, your margins are going to change. And the reason your margins are going to change because it's going to cost more for you to get your product into the US. Now, indirectly, if China is getting hit by tariffs, they will have to try and make their money back somehow as well. And so if you're purchasing a lot of your product from China at the moment, selling it on your e-commerce website, then I think what we're going to find is that the price of your products that you're buying for right now is going to change. It's going to be more expensive. They have to try and win their money back somehow because the US have essentially said everything's going to cost more. And so they're not going to be willing to lose their profits. Your suppliers aren't going to be willing to lose their profits as well. And so you as a business owner, an e-commerce owner, or even if you're like a service-based trade, any business I think needs to start thinking about this and going, well, are my margins secure enough to take on the implications of the tariffs? And if you're already running on razor thin margins, then I would encourage you to have a look at a strategy to either pivot your business or have a look at a way where you can lock in prices now so that you're not going to be hit by the impact later. Actionable strategies that most business owners can do now. Let's talk about that. I did dive into it a little bit, but I think this is very important, especially for small businesses that are running on tight margins and cash flow. And so what I think what should be done, if you are importing, if you have the ability to lock in prices where you can, it may cost you a little bit now, but basically if you're able to lock in your margins, you have the ability for that cash flow or have the ability to lend to purchase more, do it now, as long as you're confident that you can sell that product later. Number 2, reassess your unit economics. So everything will be impacted in a certain way. All suppliers, whether it be products or services that you are currently obtaining, in the medium to long term, there's going to be an impact and the prices will most likely rise. And so what I recommend doing now is trying to create a projection of your gross profit margins based on the worst case scenario. Then adapt your business in terms of your pricing, adapt your business in terms of how lean you are in terms of overheads as well, so that you are still able to maintain the profitability or that you're doing today. Trading tomorrow is going to be completely different, especially if this continues to get worse and worse. You will really have to have a very, very deep understanding of your figures, your unit economics, the profitability that you have in your business, your cash flow. So it's going to be very important. For those that do not have a cash flow projection or a budget, get one. For those that already have one, update it now. It's super important because if you don't, you're going to be hit with these surprises of low profitability or no profitability. Your cash flow is absolutely going to be hammered, and then it puts you in a place of this, fight or flight, and you don't want to be in that position. You'd rather be way, way in front. And so I also think that pivoting now and having a look at your business structure and strategy isn't a bad idea anyway. It forces everyone to make a change. And so those that will win will now need to leverage even more on technology, making sure that they're running a lean operation. And so if you are currently running your business as if you were running it the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you need to make a change. You really need to make a change. This week, all business owners, irrespective of the industry you're in, this is what I want you to do. Renegotiate with your suppliers. Again, increase inventory while costs are low. If you can, obviously manage your cash flow. Change to a value-based pricing model for your products or service rather than competing on price. You need to be able to justify your price positioning. You need to be able to articulate what you are selling to your clients or consumers in terms of the value of your product or service, and rather than the pricing. It's most likely that your pricing will have to go up at some point in time, and so be ready on how to communicate that with your clients. You want to improve your cash flow cycle. So if I was running one of your businesses, I'd be looking at cash flow cycle and seeing how can we free up more cash now, improving your debtors, negotiate with your creditors, making sure that we have a very robust system in terms of chasing down debt where there is debt. You want to shorten your payment terms with your clients and consumers. So, if you're currently doing a 90-day or a 30-day payment term, reduce it by half if possible. And then what you possibly want to do if you are manufacturing or obtaining goods from overseas, let's start looking beyond China. China has always been a great solution, but diversification and also de-risking is now more important than ever. So Vietnam, Turkey, India, looking at other potential nations that will provide the same or better quality product at either the same or better price. So this is where you have to be smart. Spend 2 hours on Alibaba and start opening new conversations now, because before things happen, it takes a while to lock in a great manufacturer. It takes a while to lock in the product that you are wanting to produce. So everything needs to start now. Now, I want to finish off with basically asking you a question. If your entire business collapses from a 10% cost change, what would you do, right, after that? And if you had the chance to change it yesterday, how would you change it? So think about a 10% cost change. Go more aggressive if you want to, but even at 10%, if all costs increase by 10%, how would it affect your business? Put it into a projection, put it into financials, put it into budgets, and see and identify the impact. Then make a change. Guys, super important. We have, as Australians, roughly 90 days to really hone in on the strategy that you're going to take over the next 6 to 12 months. And then we'll start feeling the actual consequences and implications of the tariff changes, I believe, within 6 to 12 months and even more in the longer term. If you have any questions, or if you want to book in some type of strategy meeting with myself or the team, let us know. But keep your businesses safe, be smart, and implement change now.